Hi all, Old Geek again, and it's time to start looking at some other old school games. I'll be beginning this with a series of videos looking into a system that I do have a nostalgic soft spot for. Middle-earth role-playing, or MERP for short. Now I'm going to be fidgeting around a bit in this video because I'm going to be showing a few things off. This is a bit of an excuse for me to show off some nice stuff. MERP was published by ICE, or ICE, Iron Crown Enterprises, and was an offshoot of their earlier Rolemaster game. Rolemaster itself began as a collection of alternative combat rules for AD&D, before developing into its own system. The earliest MERP products appeared in 1982, and were designed for Rolemaster, with the first distinct set of rules for a separate MERP game being published in 1984. MERP is often thus described as being Rolemaster Light, as the original is a crunchy affair with many tables to deal with mechanics. It was often disparagingly referred to as Chartmaster or Rules Master. MERP simplified it somewhat, though it was still more cumbersome than similar fantasy games from TSR. The 1984 boxed set had two distinct versions. The US release got a red cover, and here in the UK we got a Games Workshop licensed version that looked like this. Pretty, isn't it? But while it looked nice, the already somewhat chunky rules were hampered by poor organisation, as charts were scattered liberally throughout the book, and you had to bounce backwards and forwards to do even the most minor of things. So, in 1986, we got a second edition. And that's it. Very little was changed mechanically, but organisation was cleaned up, and the charts were mostly put together towards the back of the book. Another issue persisted, however, as there were a lot of instances where the rules were poorly explained. Terms were referred to, but never clarified. I do wonder if some system knowledge of Rolemaster was assumed. I was 14 or 15 when I was trying to digest how to run this, and it wasn't easy to fathom it all out, even with a plethora of gameplay examples in the text, as there were. In 1983, this was eventually sorted out, with the release of this hardback collector's edition. In this book, the rules explanations are more thorough and better written, with some optional extra material added. There are a lot of extra example characters to refer to as well. Sadly, the interior art took a little bit of a downturn here, and yes, the layout of the book does remain somewhat eccentric. I have to say, of the three editions of the rules, this one is probably my favourite, and that's because the box set for the 1986 release came with an excellent low-level adventure in the form of the Loons of the Long Fell. All the versions included another pair of example scenarios, but these were ridiculous for new players and new GMs, as they were way too tough for low-level characters. They were utterly unsuitable for inclusion in a rulebook or starter set. Loons of the Long Fell should have been in the collector's edition, with the other two scenarios making way if necessary. As the rulebooks evolved, so did the supplementary material, and for me this is where the game shone most brightly. as whatever you might think of the rule set, nobody can deny that the maps, the campaign books and adventures that were released for it were anything short of stunning. The earliest modules were mostly area guides, such as this one, Isengard, from 1983, which was published specifically for the Rolemaster rules. A little later, we started to get more focused adventure modules, with this being an example. The Haunted Ruins of the Dunlendings, released in 1985. These were typically collections of 3 adventures, all based in a certain area. In this case, the Blackroot Vale and Sarn Erech. Later in the 1980s, these books became more the norm. And here I have Shadow in the South, there it is, and Mount Gundabad. Both contain copious area information, as well as a mixture of adventure plot seeds and frameworks. The format again shifted around the time of the hardback collector's edition, and I make no excuses here, as I'm about to show off some of my most prized RPG possessions. Starting with this one. Palantir Quest, a huge epic adventure set in the 4th Age. 150 plus pages of it. It's massive. Next I'm going to show you these 2 books in the Citadel series. Sorry about the bumping, I'm moving things around. Dol Guldur, and Minas Tirith. Both of these are huge and immensely detailed. And then there's this one in the Realms series. That is Arnor. It's a collection of 2 earlier books put together as one. It's over 400 pages in length, and that would set you back a pretty penny. But finally, My Pièce de Résistance, a book worth a lot of money in this condition. The Kinstrife. It's not as beefy as Arnor, but it's every bit as obsessive in its detail of a key period of Middle-earth history. It's absolutely beautiful. My one reservation with some of the material in these books is what exactly to do with it. Initially, the Middle-earth game focused on the period around 1640 in the 3rd Age, a time largely left alone by Tolkien, which allowed ICE's authors to create details to fill in the gaps. It was a perfect choice. Post-Kinstrife and just after the Plague, the Shire was in its infancy, and Sauron was gathering power in Mirkwood as the Necromancer. So there's tons to work with and not a lot of canon material to hamstring it. Some of those later books that I showed you deviated from that and focused more specifically on events from the canon. Anyway, I think that's enough for this video. Just a bit of background. Hopefully I've whetted your appetites for a few more on this topic to come. A few more on the mechanics of MERP, and we'll have a look at some other systems along the way as well. For now, good night.